The conference room goes silent as Koffi Asante doubles over, clutching his stomach like someone just stabbed him. The three investors from Deutsche Bank freeze mid-handshake. Kweku drops his presentation remote and rushes around the mahogany table. "Koffi, what's wrong?" But his twin can't answer. The older brother's face has gone gray-green and sweat beads across his forehead. He stumbles toward the door, one hand pressed against the wall for support. "Gentlemen, I'm so sorry," Kweku stammers to the investors. "We'll need to reschedule." The German executives exchange glances. This is the second time in 3 weeks that the CEO has collapsed during important meetings. Word gets around fast in Lagos business circles. Kweku helps his brother down the hallway of their FlowCash headquarters. The sick twin's legs shake with each step. "Was it the lunch again?" Kweku asks. His sibling nods weakly. "The jollof rice. Fatu made it special for the investors." They reach the corner office and the older brother collapses into his chair. Kweku grabs a bottle of water from the mini-fridge, but the patient waves it away. "I'll call Amara," he whispers. "Tell her to make the plain rice. With her clay pot." Kweku pulls out his phone. This has become their routine over the past 6 months. The CEO gets violently sick from everyone's cooking except their newest maid's simple meals. 20 minutes later, Amara Nyong appears in the doorway carrying a covered bowl. She's a quiet woman in her 30s, always moving with purpose through their Ikoyi mansion. "Sir, I brought the rice with a little palm oil and some boiled plantain." The aroma hits the invalid immediately. Something about this woman's cooking always settles his stomach, even when he's at his worst. He takes a small bite, then another. Within minutes, the cramping starts to ease. "How do you do it?" the younger twin asks their employee. "What's different about your food?" The maid shifts uncomfortably. "I don't know, sir. I cook the same way my grandmother taught me, with the clay pot from my village. But Fatu is a trained chef," Kweku continues. "She worked for the French ambassador. She uses the best ingredients." "Yes, sir." Amara's voice stays neutral, but her eyes dart toward the door. After she leaves, the brothers sit in heavy silence. The patient slowly finishes the rice while his sibling stares out the window at Lagos traffic. "This can't continue," Kweku finally declares. "We just lost a 20 million naira investment because you can't eat normal food." The older twin sets down his spoon. "You think I'm choosing this? You think I want to live on rice and plantain? I think something is seriously wrong and we need to figure out what. Or someone is trying to poison me." Kweku turns from the window. "That's paranoid. Why would anyone want to hurt you?" "Us," his brother corrects. "Why would anyone want to hurt us? And I can think of plenty of reasons. We're worth $40 million. People kill for a lot less." The office door opens and Fatu Diallo enters without knocking. The head cook's white head wrap is perfectly pressed despite the Lagos heat. "Mr. Koffi, I heard you were sick again." Her French accent makes every word sound formal. "Perhaps you would like me to prepare something special? A light soup, maybe?" "No, thank you, Fatu. Amara already brought something." The chef's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "Of course. The village girl with her clay pot." "Is there a problem?" Kweku inquires. "No problem, sir. I just wonder why you prefer simple rice over proper cuisine. I studied French techniques. I know nutrition, proper seasoning, food safety." The CEO looks up from his bowl. "And yet your food makes me sick every single time." "Perhaps the problem is not with the cooking," Fatu responds quietly. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. "What exactly are you suggesting?" The older brother's voice has gone dangerously soft. "I suggest nothing, sir. I only observe that this sickness started when certain people joined the household." Kweku steps between them. "Fatu, that's enough!" But his twin is already standing, face flushed with anger. "Are you accusing Amara of poisoning me?" "I accuse no one." "But it is strange, no? For 6 months you cannot eat anyone's food except hers. Very convenient for a woman who needs money for her daughter's surgery." The words hang in the air like smoke from a fire. The younger brother's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen and his face goes pale. "What is it?" his sibling asks. "Message from our supplier. Chucky approved another vendor change this morning. 3rd one this month." The CEO grabs the phone. The text shows their cousin has switched their organic vegetable supplier to a cheaper company based in Ogun State. "Why is our operations manager changing suppliers without telling us?" Kweku's hands start to shake slightly. I don't know. But what if Fatu is right? What if someone is deliberately making you sick? Then we find out who. The older twin reaches for his laptop. I'm calling Dr. Aduni. We're getting blood tests, food samples, everything. The chef backs toward the door. Perhaps I should return to the kitchen. Perhaps you should, the patient replies without looking up from his screen. After she leaves, Kweku slumps into a chair. This is insane. We're talking about our own staff trying to poison you. Not all our staff. His brother's fingers fly across the keyboard. Just everyone except Amara. So either she's the only honest person in our house or she's the smartest criminal we've ever met. The CEO stops typing and looks at his twin. There's only one way to find out. He picks up his phone and dials. Dr. Aduni? It's Koffi Asante. I need you to come to the house immediately. And bring your testing equipment. Kweku watches his sibling's face harden with determination. Because I think someone has been slowly poisoning me for 6 months. And tomorrow we're going to prove it. The phone goes dead and both brothers stare at each other, realizing that everyone in their house is now a suspect. Dr. Aduni Lagos arrives at the Asante mansion with a black medical bag and a skeptical expression. She's been the twins' family doctor since they made their first million. Short, no nonsense, with silver-rimmed glasses that she adjusts when she's thinking. You look terrible, she tells the CEO, setting up her equipment on the dining room table. When did you last have a proper meal? Define proper, the patient mutters, rolling up his sleeve for the blood draw. Kweku paces behind them. Doctor, is it possible for someone to poison food in a way that only affects one person? Depends on the poison and the person. She slides the needle into his brother's arm with practiced efficiency. Some people have genetic sensitivities. Others develop allergies over time. The kitchen door swings open and Amara enters carrying her clay pot. She stops when she sees the medical equipment. Sorry, sir, I can come back later. No, stay, the older twin responds quickly. Doctor, this is Amara. She's the only person whose food doesn't make me sick. Dr. Aduni looks up from labeling blood vials. Interesting. What's your cooking method? The maid sets the pot on the counter carefully. I use this clay pot from my village near Enugu. It must soak in water overnight before cooking. And I buy vegetables from Mama Ngozi's stall at Balogan Market, never the big stores. Why that particular market? My grandmother always said fresh food from small farms is safer. The big stores, they spray things to make vegetables look shiny. The physician picks up the clay pot, examining its rough surface. This is traditional Igbo pottery, unglazed, porous. It would filter water naturally. Filter what exactly? Kweku inquires. Chlorine, fluoride, some heavy metals, depending on the clay composition. Fatu appears in the doorway, her white head wrap slightly askew. Doctor, with respect, I have been cooking for 15 years. I know about food safety. This is not about clay pots. Then what is it about, Doctor? Aduni asks. The chef's eyes flick toward Amara. Perhaps you should ask who benefits from Mr. Koffi being sick. The room goes dead quiet. The maid's hands tighten on the pot handle. I would never hurt anyone. Of course not, Fatu responds smoothly. But sick employers need special care, special cooks, higher salaries. That's enough, Kweku snaps. But the doctor holds up a hand. Actually, let's test everything. I need samples of food prepared by each cook using different methods. She pulls out sterile containers from her bag. Fatu, please prepare rice using your normal technique. Amara, make the same dish with your clay pot. I want to see what we're dealing with. 20 minutes later, both women return with identical-looking bowls of jollof rice. The physician seals samples in labeled containers. These go to the lab immediately. Results tomorrow. The CEO's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen and his face darkens. Cheek is here. Through the window, they watch a dusty Toyota Camry pull up the circular driveway. Chiki Okafor climbs out, wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. He enters through the front door, jingling coins in his pocket. Koffi! Kweku, I heard you were sick again. We need to talk, the older brother responds coldly. Their cousin's easy smile falters slightly. Of course. What's wrong? You've changed suppliers 3 times this month without consulting us. I'm optimizing costs. That's my job. Kweku pulls out his phone showing the vendor messages. These new companies are 30% cheaper than our usual organic suppliers. Why? Chaik shrugs but sweat beads on his upper lip. Competition. Market forces. I negotiated better deals. Or you're buying inferior products, the patient declares. The products are identical. The same vegetables, same rice, same everything. Just better prices, doctor. Aduni looks up from packing her equipment. Mr. Cheeky, do you have documentation on these new suppliers? Certifications, quality reports? The operations manager's hand moves to his pocket, coins jingling faster. Of course. Everything is properly documented. I'd like to see those documents, she continues. They're at the office. I can bring them tomorrow. The CEO stands slowly. Bring them now. It's almost 6 p.m. The office is closed. You have keys. The two cousins stare at each other across the dining room. Years of family history hang between them. Finally, their relative nods. Fine, I'll get the paperwork. After he leaves, the physician finishes packing her samples. I should have preliminary blood results by tomorrow afternoon, but I want you to consider something. What? If someone is poisoning you, they're doing it slowly, methodically. This isn't a crime of passion. Kweku's face goes pale. You mean someone is trying to kill him gradually? Or make him chronically ill, weak, unable to run the company effectively? Amara speaks quietly from the corner. Doctor, there is something else. Everyone turns to look at her. My daughter Zara, she has been sick too. Different sickness, but sick. I need money for her surgery. 2.8 million naira. The number hangs in the air like an accusation. Fatu crosses her arms. Very convenient timing. It's not convenient. The maid responds, her voice stronger now. It's desperate. But I would never hurt anyone for money. The physician adjusts her glasses. How long has your daughter been sick? 6 months. Same time Mr. Koffi started getting sick. The twins exchange glances. That's quite a coincidence, Dr. Aduni murmurs. Amara's eyes fill with tears, but her voice stays steady. Not coincidence. Necessity. I needed work, good work, to pay for her treatment. That's why I came to Lagos. The CEO's phone rings. He answers without checking the caller ID. Yes? His face goes white as he listens. What do you mean the lab is closed? Dr. Aduni just sent samples there. He looks up at the doctor, who has gone very still. Did you really send those samples to a lab? The physician's hand moves slowly toward her medical bag. Of course I did. Why would you ask that? But her eyes dart toward the door, and Kweku notices her fingers trembling slightly as she reaches for her car keys. The patient's phone screen shows the last call came from Dr. Aduni's number, but she's standing right in front of them. The CEO stares at his phone screen, then at the physician, then back at the device. Someone just called me from your number. But you're standing right here. Dr. Aduni frowns and pulls out her own phone. Oh, that's impossible. My phone is right here. She checks her call log. Her face goes pale. According to this, I called you 30 seconds ago, but I didn't make any calls. Kweku grabs the phone from his brother. The voice said the lab was closed, that no samples were sent. But I just sent them 20 minutes ago, the doctor insists. Amara steps forward. Sir, maybe someone is listening to our phones? The room falls silent as everyone processes this possibility. Fatu laughs nervously. This is getting ridiculous. Next you'll say the house is bugged. The physician's medical training kicks in. We need to verify those samples actually reach the lab. I'm calling directly. She dials the laboratory number from memory. After a brief conversation, she hangs up with a grim expression. They never received any samples. The courier I gave them to doesn't exist. The older twins' hands clench into fists, so someone intercepted our evidence. Or someone wanted us to think they did, Kweku adds. The front door slams and their cousin's voice echoes from the hallway. I've got the supplier documents. He enters the dining room carrying a manila folder, but stops when he sees everyone's tense faces. What happened? You all look like someone died. Someone tried to steal our lab samples, the CEO responds flatly. Chike's hand moves to his pocket, coins jingling. What lab samples? Food samples to test for contamination, Dr. Aduni explains. Contamination. The operations manager's voice goes up an octave. What kind of contamination? Kweku watches his cousin carefully, the kind that would make someone chronically sick. Their relative sets the folder on the table with shaking hands. Look, I brought all the supplier documentation. Everything is legitimate. The physician opens the folder and spreads out the papers. Purchase orders, quality certificates, business licenses. These look authentic, she admits. But Amara leans over the documents, squinting at the small print. Doctor, this certificate says organic, but I know this farm. Everyone turns to stare at her. My cousin worked there last year. They use chemical fertilizers, not organic methods. The owner told workers to lie about it. Chaik's face flushes red. That's impossible. I verified everything personally. When? The CEO demands. When I negotiated the contracts. Show me the verification reports. The operations manager shuffles through the papers frantically. They must be here somewhere. But as he searches, sweat drips onto the documents. His hands shake more violently. Dr. Aduni picks up one of the certificates and holds it to the light. This watermark looks wrong. She pulls out her phone and takes a photo. I'm sending this to a colleague who specializes in document fraud. That's not necessary, their cousin responds quickly. I think it is, the patient replies. Kweku's phone buzzes. He checks the message and his face hardens. We need to talk. Privately. The cousins step into the hallway, leaving the others in uncomfortable silence. Through the thin walls, raised voices carry back to the dining room. Gambling debts? How much gambling debts? It's under control, Kweku. I just needed a little time. Time for what? To slowly poison my brother? I never meant for anyone to get hurt. Fatu and Amara exchange glances. The physician continues examining the documents with a magnifying glass. The argument in the hallway grows louder. 12 million naira? That's more than most people make in a lifetime. I can pay it back. The suppliers were overcharging anyway. I was just evening things out. By buying contaminated food? I didn't know it was contaminated. The CEO's voice cuts through the noise like a blade. But you suspected something was wrong when I started getting sick. Silence. Then their relative's voice, barely a whisper. I thought maybe you were just stressed. Working too hard. For 6 months? I kept hoping you'd get better. The hallway door opens and both twins return. Chiki follows behind them, his face streaked with tears. Tell them, Kweku orders. Their cousin slumps into a chair. I've been skimming money from supplier contracts to pay gambling debts. The new vendors are cheaper because they cut corners on safety standards. Dr. Aduni looks up from the documents. What kind of corners? Pesticide residue limits? Heavy metal testing? Organic certification requirements? Heavy metals, the physician repeats slowly. That would explain the symptoms. Amara speaks quietly. My clay pot, it filters heavy metals from water. My grandmother always said the old ways protect against poison in food. So you've been accidentally detoxifying his meals, the doctor concludes. Fatu throws her hands up. This is insane. You're telling me this whole mystery comes down to dirty vegetables in a clay pot? Not just dirty, Dr. Aduni corrects. Systematically contaminated with industrial runoff. Lead, mercury, cadmium. Small doses over months would cause exactly these symptoms. The patient stares at his cousin. You've been slowly poisoning me to pay your gambling debts. I didn't know, Chaik pleads. I swear I didn't know. But you kept changing suppliers even after I got sick. Their relatives' shoulders shake. I was in too deep. The bookies said they'd kill me if I didn't pay. Kweku pulls out his phone. I'm calling the police. Wait, the physician interrupts. We still need proper lab tests to prove contamination, and we need to get treatment started for heavy metal poisoning. How long will treatment take? The CEO asks. Months, maybe longer. You'll need chelation therapy, dietary changes, constant monitoring. Amara steps forward hesitantly. Doctor, what about my daughter? If Mr. Koffi has been poisoned by heavy metals and she's been sick for the same time period. The physician's eyes widen. Where does your daughter live? With my sister in Mushin, near the industrial district. The same area where these contaminated farms get their irrigation water. The pieces click together with horrible clarity. Fatu sinks into a chair. So we've all been eating poisoned food for months. Not all of us, Dr. Aduni responds grimly. Only people eating from the contaminated supply chain. The CEO's phone rings again. This time he recognizes the number. It's building security, he tells the group before answering. His face goes white as he listens. What do you mean someone broke into the FlowCash offices? When? He hangs up and looks at Chica with new suspicion. The office was burglarized 20 minutes ago, right after you left to get those documents. Their cousin's coins jingle frantically in his pocket. I don't know anything about that. The only thing missing was the supplier contract files. The physician stands slowly. Someone doesn't want us to have evidence of the contamination. But who else knows what we discovered? Kweku asks. Amara's voice is barely a whisper, someone who's been listening to everything we said. They all turn to stare at her. The phone call that came from Dr. Aduni's number. Someone knew exactly what we were talking about. Fatu's face has gone ashen. You think someone is watching us right now? The lights in the dining room suddenly go out, plunging them into complete darkness. The darkness lasts exactly 3 seconds before the emergency generator kicks in. Dim yellow light floods the dining room. Everyone blinks, adjusting to the sudden change. Just a power outage, Kweku declares, but his voice lacks conviction. Dr. Aduni checks her phone. The rest of the neighborhood still has electricity. Through the window, streetlights glow normally along the Ikoyi street. Only the Asante mansion sits in partial darkness. The CEO moves toward the electrical panel in the hallway. Someone cut our main power line. Or the gambling people found me, Cheeky whispers. What gambling people? Fatu demands. Their cousin's coins jingle frantically. The ones I owe money to. They said they'd come for the debt one way or another. Kweku grabs his relative's shirt. You brought loan sharks to our house? I didn't bring anyone. They must have followed me. The physician peers through the front window. There's a van parked across the street that wasn't there before. Amara clutches her clay pot tighter. Should we call the police? With what evidence? The patient asks. That someone cut our power and parked a van. A loud crash echoes from the kitchen. Everyone freezes. Fatu whispers. That came from the back door. Another crash followed by the sound of breaking glass. The older twin motions for silence and pulls out his phone. No signal. Dr. Aduni checks hers, also dead. They're jamming our phones, she mouths. Heavy footsteps move through the kitchen toward the dining room. Kweku looks around desperately. The front door is too far. The back door is where the intruders entered. Upstairs, he whispers. They move as quietly as possible toward the staircase. Amara's clay pot clinks softly against her hip with each step. The footsteps in the kitchen stop. Then a voice calls out, rough and accented. Mr. Chike, we know you're here. Time to settle accounts. Their cousin's face goes gray. They're not here for the contamination. They're here for me. How much do you owe them? The CEO hisses. 12 million naira. And if you can't pay? Cheek's silence answers everything. They reach the second-floor landing. The physician points toward the corner office, which has a reinforced door and landline phone. But as they move down the hallway, more voices echo from downstairs. Check every room. The twins are worth more than what our debtor owes us. Kweku's blood runs cold. They're not just here for you anymore. Rich boys like you, your families pay big ransoms, another voice adds. Dr. Aduni tries the landline in the office. Dead. They cut all the lines, she whispers. Amara moves to the window and looks down at the street. The van is gone. But there are men around the house now. How many? The patient asks. I count 4. Maybe more. Fatu sits heavily in a chair. This is because of your cousin's gambling. We're all going to die because of his debts. Nobody's dying, Kweku responds firmly, but his hands shake as he searches through his brother's desk drawers. What are you looking for? The physician asks. Emergency satellite phone. He finds it in the bottom drawer and powers it on. The signal is weak but functional. Who are you calling? Building security first. Then police. But before he can dial, footsteps pound up the stairs. They're coming, Amara whispers. The CEO looks around his office. One window, 20-foot drop to concrete. One door now blocked by approaching footsteps. The panic room, he declares suddenly. You have a panic room? Dr. Aduni asks, behind the bookshelf. Installed it when we made our first 10 million. He presses a hidden switch and a section of the bookshelf swings inward, revealing a small reinforced room. Everyone inside. Now, they squeeze into the cramped space just as the office door explodes open. Through a tiny periscope window, they watch 3 men enter the office. Large professional wearing dark clothing. The leader speaks into a radio. Office is empty. Keep searching. Boss, we found something, comes the reply. What? Medical equipment in the dining room and documents about food contamination. The leader's expression changes. Bring everything upstairs. Minutes later, the other men arrive carrying Dr. Aduni's equipment and Cheeky's supplier documents. What's all this about? The leader asks, examining the papers. One of his men holds up a blood vial. Looks like they were testing for poisoning. The leader studies the documents more carefully. These supplier contracts, they're all from the same source. He pulls out his phone and dials. Sir, we have a problem. The twins discovered the contamination scheme. A pause. Yes, sir, they have evidence. Medical tests, supplier documents, everything. Another pause. Understood. We'll handle it permanently. He hangs up and turns to his men. Change of plans. This isn't about gambling debts anymore. Inside the panic room, everyone exchanges terrified glances. Their cousin whispers, I don't understand. Who is he talking to? The physician's face has gone pale. Someone who doesn't want the contamination exposed. But Cheeky said he was just skimming money, Kweku protests. Maybe our cousin wasn't the only one profiting from the contaminated suppliers, she replies. On the other side of the wall, the leader continues his conversation. The doctor, the maids, the cousin, all of them know too much now. He examines Amara's clay pot, which she dropped during their escape. And sir, there's something else. They figured out how to neutralize the contamination. Traditional clay filtration methods. The voice on the phone becomes audible through the speaker. That cannot be allowed to spread. Clean up everything. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. The CEO grips the satellite phone tighter and finally manages to dial emergency services. Police? This is Koffi Asante. Armed men have broken into my house at... But his whispered voice carries through the thin panic room walls. The leader's head snaps up. Did you hear that? His men draw their weapons and begin examining the walls carefully. There's a hidden room somewhere. Find it. One man runs his hands along the bookshelf while another taps the walls, listening for hollow sounds. The physician checks her watch. Police response time in this area is usually 15 minutes. We don't have 15 minutes, Kweku replies. The tapping on the walls grows more systematic, more focused. Then one of the men calls out, Boss, I found the mechanism. The bookshelf begins to swing open as the leader raises his gun and smiles. The bookshelf swings open and sirens wail in the distance. The leader freezes, gun halfway raised. His radio crackles with urgent voices. Boss, police are coming up the street. Multiple units. How many? 6 cars, maybe more. The leader lowers his weapon and speaks rapidly into his radio. Abort. Everyone out the back. Leave no evidence. But Dr. Aduni steps out of the panic room with her hands raised. Wait. Before you go, you need to know something about the contamination. The leader turns back, suspicious. What about it? It's not just affecting the twins. The whole Lagos water supply is compromised. His eyes narrow. You're lying. Check the documents. The contaminated farms irrigate from the same river system that feeds half the city. One of his men grabs the supplier papers and scans them quickly. Boss, she's right. These farms are all along the Ogun River. The sirens grow louder. We don't have time for this, the leader snaps. But the physician continues talking, her voice steady despite the gun pointed at her. Your boss, whoever hired you, they're poisoning thousands of people, including your own families. That's not our problem. It will be when the story breaks. International news, government investigations, criminal trials. The leader hesitates. His radio crackles again. Boss, police are surrounding the building. Through the window, red and blue lights flash across the walls. Move out, he orders his men. But as they head for the door, the CEO emerges from the panic room. "Your boss made one mistake," he calls out. The leader stops. "What mistake?" "He tried to kill the wrong people." The patient holds up his satellite phone, still connected to the emergency call. "Everything you said about cleaning up witnesses, making it look like a robbery, it's all recorded. The police have been listening for the past 10 minutes. The leader's face goes white. Heavy footsteps pound up the stairs. Multiple sets moving fast. Lagos police. Everyone on the ground. The leader and his men drop their weapons and raise their hands as armed officers flood the room. "Koffi Asante," the lead officer asks. "That's me." "We got your call. Are you injured?" "No, but we have evidence of a major contamination conspiracy." Dr. Adani steps forward with the supplier documents. "Officer, these papers show systematic poisoning of the food supply." The lead officer examines the documents while his team secures the intruders. "This is bigger than a home invasion," he declares after reading. "We'll need to involve the health ministry." 3 hours later, the house is quiet again. The intruders are in custody, their phones confiscated and analyzed. The physician sits at the dining room table with fresh blood samples and proper lab equipment. "The good news is we can treat heavy metal poisoning," she tells the CEO. "Chelation therapy, dietary changes, supplements." "How long until I'm normal again?" 6 months minimum. Maybe longer. Amara enters carrying her clay pot, now cracked from being dropped during the escape. "Doctor, can you test this pot? I want to understand how it works." The physician examines the clay carefully. The mineral composition is fascinating. High iron content, specific pH levels. It's like a natural water filter. "My grandmother always said the old ways protect against poison." She was right. This clay naturally chelates heavy metals from water and food. Kweku looks up from his laptop. The police trace the leader's phone calls. They lead back to a shell company owned by our biggest competitor. "Techflow Industries?" the patient asks. "They've been trying to buy us out for 2 years. When we refused, they decided to destroy us slowly." Cheek sits in the corner, still shaking. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Your gambling debts made you an easy target," the physician observes. "They probably approached you months ago. They said it was just about saving money on suppliers. They never mentioned contamination." Fatu speaks up from her chair. "What happens to us now? The staff, I mean." The CEO looks around the room. "That depends. Do you want to stay? After everything that's happened? We're going to need help managing my medical treatment. And we want to research traditional food safety methods." He turns to Amara. "Your clay pot knowledge could help thousands of people." The maid clutches the cracked pot. "I need to get new pots from my village, and I still need money for my daughter's surgery." "The surgery is covered," Kweku announces. "Consider it a bonus for saving my brother's life." "I didn't save anyone. I just cooked the way my grandmother taught me." "Sometimes that's enough." The physician packs her equipment. "I'll have full lab results in 48 hours. But treatment needs to start immediately." "What kind of treatment?" "Modified diet, filtered water, specific supplements. And you'll need someone who understands traditional food preparation methods." She looks meaningfully at Amara. "I can teach you everything my grandmother taught me," the maid offers. "But I'm not educated like Fatu. I don't know the science." "I can teach you the science," Dr. Aduni responds. "If you're willing to learn." Fatu stands slowly. "And I can teach you French cooking techniques. If you want." The offer hangs in the air. Amara nods. "I would like that." The CEO's phone buzzes with a news alert. He reads it and his face hardens. "Techflow Industries stock just crashed. Someone leaked the contamination story to the press." "Good," Kweku declares. "But look at this." His brother shows them the screen. The CEO issued a statement denying everything. He's claiming we fabricated evidence to damage their reputation. The physician frowns. The police have recorded confessions from the intruders. Confessions they're now saying were coerced. Fatu shakes her head. Rich people always find ways to escape justice. But Amara picks up her cracked clay pot and examines it thoughtfully. "Doctor, how many people in Lagos drink contaminated water?" "Millions. Why?" And how many know about traditional clay filtration? Very few. Most people think it's primitive superstition. The maid sets the pot down carefully. Then we have work to do. The patient looks at her with new respect. What kind of work? Teaching people the old ways, showing them how to protect their families. That could take years. My grandmother always said the best revenge against poison is helping people stay healthy. Dr. Aduni smiles. I think your grandmother was a very wise woman. Outside, Lagos traffic hums with its usual chaos. But inside the Asante mansion, something has shifted. The crisis brought them together, but the real work is just beginning. 3 months later, Amara stands in front of a packed community center, teaching 50 mothers how to prepare clay pots for water filtration, while the CEO's latest blood tests show normal heavy metal levels for the first time in a year.